Hi, everyone. I know this is different than what Kim expected, but you know what? That's just how life is, and that is just fine. So, good morning, depending on what time zone you're in, I guess very early, or if you're here in Birmingham with us or around, good morning. I am so super happy to be here. Kim is one of my dear friends, at least I call her friend. I hope she calls me friend too. That would be awkward. But I love Forge. I love working there. I miss it so much. I would be there every day still, except my 3-year-old likes to be at home because he has nowhere to go. Need to get him a license and a hobby real fast. But today, and we'll remind you all to mute. But we do want to also, that is a good reminder though, since we're in meeting mode, please remember to keep yourselves muted. And later on, I'm sure I'll need some clarification about some question you asked and need you to unmute yourself, which is kind of convenient. So let's jump right in. I know we are starting a little bit later than we expected, which is okay. And we're going to talk about how and why you should be using email marketing. And of course, I will start by telling you who I am. Just in case you don't know, I try not to be so full of myself that I think everyone already knows who I am. Sometimes I skip this. Today I will not. So I am really pretty in this picture. Let's start there. One of my favorite pictures. That's not what I want to start with, but I'm all of these things. But if you know me and you've ever been to anything I have done, you know the last couple bullets are all that really matter. So I have a son who just turned 4 on Sunday. His name is Israel. I have a dog. His name is Milo. I also have a husband. I didn't list him there either, I didn't. But I'm a recovering, this is a little different from normal, Target and Starbucks addict. Boo, COVID-19. I haven't been able to walk the Target aisles like I want to and hit the Starbucks like I used to. So forget Corona, and I am a recovering addict, though I hope to return to my addictions at a later time. All right, if you ever thought I did this alone, I do not. Here are the 4 main people that work with me. They love me, I love them. They still, I don't think, know that I use their pictures in my presentations. Maybe they should attend and they would find out. But until then, we'll keep rolling with putting their names and faces all over the continental United States. All right, so I am going to real quick, I need to make sure that when I pressed share, I put on my computer sound because this is a very important slide. We're gonna start off by respecting your elders. All right, so we'll find out real quick how old a lot of you are. Can you hear that? Can you hear that out there in the world? That, people, was the sound of AOL dial-up. If you do not, yes, someone in the chat said, please don't make a phone call. If you remember this time of life, you probably just had so many flashbacks of not being able to talk on the phone and dial up and having that CD-ROM, who remembers that word, trying to get online for the World Wide Web. And I just wanted to give you that moment of nostalgia. When I started building this presentation, I was like, man, email marketing is so old. How old is it? It's actually older than the sound you just heard. If we remember, digital things, internet things are still fairly young for kind of the history of people, right? The history of communication in general. Though we've come a long way from like chipping onto rocks, that sound is kind of one of those things that reminds us of where we've come from. It's very, very different now. We get mad if our screen does not refresh in like 2 seconds. So we've come a long way. If you felt the way I felt when you heard that, you're welcome. All right, so let's just talk about where we've come from. So back in 1978, the first email was sent, and it was only sent to about 400 people. It was internal, but it resulted in $13 million worth of sales. $13 million. Now, what they were selling was, I think, the ability to do the same thing. But either way, that first email was immediately worth it. 91 Hotmail opened up the doors and said, come on in, let's send some emails to each other. Who in here knew that Hotmail was the first? I thought it was AOL. That's what happens when you research things. Hotmail was the first, believe it or not. 92, the first smartphone was introduced, and suddenly those emails could be checked on our phones. It was not an iPhone. iPhones didn't come until like 07. Sorry, I love my iPhone, but we were not the first. And then in 98, it started to get real. That's when I think they realized email marketing was not going away, and we needed to put some kind of parameters around how people were going to act in that space. And so that is your very quick, very short where email came from. I know there's a big gap between 98 and 2020, but it hasn't changed a whole ton. There are a few things, a few more laws, and we'll kind of hit on a few of those super quickly. But it really hasn't changed much since then. Once we got the permission from the law and from people to be all up in their inboxes, things have gone pretty smoothly from there. So just a reminder, please make sure you stay muted because I can hear someone's background. All right. Now, let's talk about the strengths of email marketing. So one, it's user-friendly. And not only is it user-friendly for the people who open them, but it's really user-friendly for the people who create them. It's kind of like writing a letter, which is super simple if you can write. And so getting the message out there, being able to easily use it. People open emails all day for a variety of reasons, sometimes begrudgingly, but they still do use them. And so it's very user-friendly. It's not like having people download an app to be able to do a thing with you, or having to go to a particular space or become familiar. You get to land right into a space that they already use, that they're already comfortable with. And that's super, super user-friendly for this type of marketing. Also, email marketing is way more personal than most of the digital marketing things that we do. And not only is it personal in that you can say their name in the email, but it comes into a space where it's a little bit more quiet. It's a more intimate space, email is. And so it's really important to understand that this is a personal communication, and that's why we want to keep with certain etiquettes that have probably been around since 98. Also, a big strength of email marketing is that it does go straight to your audience. So unlike where when you put things in Google ads or on social media, you're kind of casting a pretty wide net, and that's great and fine. But with email marketing, you get to say, nope, I am talking to you right now. You gave me this information. I am talking to you. So it is one of the most direct ways to just completely address your audience without having to hope that they will get there, hope that they'll get the message. Also, you have less traffic. In keeping with the more personal theme, when you think about Facebook or Instagram or anything digital marketing, there's a ton of ads everywhere. Everywhere you turn, there is an ad. On the side of your screen, there is an ad. At the bottom of your screen, there is an ad. And actually, even in emails, there's a couple ads in there too, but there's far less distractions and less traffic happening in that space when people open their email than there is in any other digital marketing space. And that's a really, really big strength of email marketing. And then lastly, it basically fits into every single industry. There is not an industry that I've identified anyway that's like, oh man, email marketing sucks for this. Ultimately, for every single industry.
Hey, what are you doing?
Make sure you mute your screen or mute your login. So we want to make sure, so it fits every industry. Brain got thrown off there. Every business, every organization, anything that you do, there's a way for you to provide value to people via email marketing, or keep up with them, or remind them of why they're there, or in the process of what you do for business. And so it fits in every industry in some kind of way. And that's a big strength, because that means you can easily pivot or use it for multiple reasons. And there, again, are not very many ways that you can do that in a digital marketing space. Now, email is a powerful and effective tool. Let's start with the right side of this screen. There are 3.8 billion email users worldwide. So please believe me when I say your audience is out there somewhere and they have an email address. 3.8 billion is a very big number, unless we're talking PPP money, then it's not that big. But otherwise, it's a very, very big number. 300% 3,800% in return on investment. For every email generated, about $38 on average is received for every dollar spent. And that's an average. So if you think about how many emails maybe you send over the course of a year, or you want to begin to send over the course of a year, think about having a return on your investment of about 3,800%. That's a lot. And that's a wonderful thing if you are trying to make money. Also, it is 40 times more effective than Facebook and Twitter combined. And again, that goes back to that kind of general idea that on social media, we don't get to decide who sees what when, if they actually are going to react or whatever. So it's way more targeted, way more personal, and so it's way more effective, something to the tune of 40 times more effective. And those are really, really big numbers. I think it feels very unrealistic and weird for those numbers to be so large. But when we really think about how personal and close to our customers we get in an email, it makes perfect sense. So here on the left side of the screen, we have ways that we can use it and how we use this as a tool, right? So we can use our emails to build relationships. As people come into the space with you, you begin a conversation or you continue a conversation. And so your email marketing becomes this tool for you to build and nurture your relationships with your audience. Again, if you've ever seen anything I've ever done, I say the words, don't walk around with your hand out all the time saying, buy, 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 give me money, give me money, give me money. That's annoying. Let me tell you what your audience want. You're annoying if you're doing that. So you want to make sure you're building relationships, providing value, loving on the people who have given you this intimate space to share with them. Also, you might want to use your email marketing to boost your brand awareness. And so if you are wanting to tell your story, which you should always be doing, tell the story of your customers, make them the hero, you're essentially spreading out your brand awareness. Because what happens when people read that is they have to tell it to someone else or they want to share it with someone else. And so you're boosting that brand awareness by continuing to give your audience ways to understand what you do, understand why you do it, and tell other people. You're empowering them, and that's a very, very powerful tool. Also, in your emails, you may decide to promote your content. So if you are like in a blogging space or even in a service space where maybe you have courses or ebooks, if you are an organization and you provide services to a community or to a community of people, it's a great way to promote what you have going on. So oftentimes, I think that people confuse the idea of promoting products and promoting content. Of course, we want people to promote products, but not everyone has a product, so to speak. And so promoting your content is more about things you've created that you're giving to the world. Maybe they're for sale, maybe they're not. It could be all the things. So it's important to remember to promote yourself, be your own PR, and email is a great way to do that, to be your own PR person, your own PR company, make everything you do look so important. It's breaking news when it comes through your email. And that's a great way to use it. Also, we can generate leads, right? We can absolutely take people from, oh, I just saw them and ran into them, and this is pretty interesting, and I'll get on their list, to, oh, I did not know that that's something that I really wanted. Maybe I will go a little further. And suddenly you are getting people your way. Or if you have something of value to give them, and we'll talk about this later, you may offer them something of value and suddenly they're sucked into your funnel via email. Either way, it's a great way to generate leads. Also, you market your products, which I hit on just a few seconds ago. If you have tangible goods, if you're selling retail, if you are selling anything that you can package or ship or pick up at the curbside or inside, whatever's happening, for your life right now, you do want to be saying, hey, we have these things available. And for my service-based businesses out there, like myself, your products may be those digital courses or those ebooks or the actual services that you provide. Those are considered products as well. So do market those products, educate people on those products, and put them into your emails. And then also you nurture leads, which takes us way back to the very first bullet point. which is building a relationship. You're building the relationship, but you're nurturing. So those leads that have come in because maybe you gave them some great tools, some great information, now they're sucked into the funnel. They are there with you every time you send an email. You're just loving on them and rubbing on them. Well, not rubbing. Rubbing sounds really creepy. So let's say just loving on them and giving them all the attention in the world. And hopefully they will come and do whatever it is you're asking them to do, whether that's spend money, spend time, make a commitment, whatever that looks like for your business and for your industry. Now, I have to be very markety here and say there are a couple things that you do want to do that are foundational before you get into sending emails. One of those things is so core to everything that I ever have to say, but for whatever reason, people like to overlook this. You need to know your audience. Know who you are talking to. If you have not built an avatar, if you've not built buyer personas, and I put an S in parentheses here because oftentimes people frequently ask question like poster child, what if you have multiple customers? Pretty much everyone has multiple customers, even if it's the same person. Not that people have multiple personalities, but something like that. People act differently in different spaces, or as their life evolves, things are different for them. Even sometimes as the calendar year passes by, they're in a different place. You need a buyer persona or an avatar for the people you are trying to target. It's very difficult to hold a conversation with someone that you do not know. It's weird. It feels weird for you to try to do it. It feels weird for them to try to receive it. And when we think about just plain communication, you wouldn't really, even though I'm sure it's happened to you, think about someone walking up and starting to talk to you like they know you, and you're pretty much like, I don't think I'm forgetting you. I think I just don't know you. It's kind of like that. If you don't know who you're speaking to, maybe they feel aware of you, but you aren't aware of them. And so it's just an awkward space to try to navigate. So it's best to know who they are, have built those avatars and those personas. They will take you so far in your marketing in general, but specifically today for your email marketing. Also, you want to know their preferred method of communication. Now, this seems counterintuitive for today's conversation, but if they don't like email, you might not want to send one every 3 days. It doesn't mean you can't use it all together, but you do want to understand that, hey, my audience pretty much loves Instagram. I'm using this email as a space to give them more information, more in depth, but it needs to be quick because they don't really like emails like that. Know them enough to know if this is not their preferred method of communication. Doesn't mean it has to come out of your strategy altogether, but that will decide for you how you're going to integrate that, what you're going to say, how long it needs to be. All that kind of stuff is influenced just by knowing their preferred method of communication. Then, once you are in that email space, let me remind you to segment your list. This also goes back to knowing your audience, and not just maybe knowing who they are and how they are and what they like, but how you came in contact with them. So you may want to segment your list within whatever platform you're using by where you saw them. Maybe it was events. It could be their age. It could be how many times they've purchased. There are lots of ways for you to decide how to segment your list, but you have to decide what makes sense for your business, for your industry or organization, and segment it. That way, if you decide to only talk to a particular group, you've done so. You can say, hey, I know you like, I always look around for what I have around, and I don't have anything cool around today. Here we go. Boom. This is, it's a mineral, it's salt. Don't ask why this is on my desk. I have a 4-year-old. So you may say, hey, I know that you like this thing. Here, isn't it shiny and pretty? Don't you want it? As opposed to your entire list who you have not identified like this particular thing, half of them are going to go, why would I want that? So that's a very extreme and random example, but it's just how you have to think about how you're talking to your audience. So try to separate some things. You don't always have to speak specifically to them, but there will be times that it makes more sense just to narrow down to the people that you have chosen to talk to and say this particular thing to them. Now, aside from knowing who they are, you want to know what their journey is like with your business. Now, in the big scheme of things, in the big idea of marketing, it's all kind of a process. And I know there are a couple people who on this call who have heard me talk about process in great detail. It is always important to how you're marketing because everything is connected. So you want to know their journey and understand their desires. Consider how they got to you, right? Consider why they came in the first place and consider what motivates them. And okay, so I was going with the considers, so I just put another consider so it would look good. But the last one is just to nurture the relationship. If you're giggling, yes, it was weird when I typed. I was like, okay, consider, nurture the relationship. That's exactly how that happened. So keep those things in mind. How did they get to you? Where were they? Why? What motivated them to come? What motivates them to stay? And how can you, again, love on them and make them understand that being in this email space with you benefits both parties? Now, ways that you can use the email, of course, you can say, welcome to this space. When we think about how they got to you, welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. We're so glad that you did. You're awesome. We're awesome. This is going to work out well. If you haven't heard from them in a while, maybe they haven't opened their emails in a while from you, and you're feeling kind of weird and awkward about that, you can check in and say, hey, we miss you. What's going on? Here's what you've missed. Here's what we can update you on. That's a great way to use that and understand their journey. Then sometimes you just need to say thank you. Maybe they purchased the thing. Those emails that you get that confirm your purchase, that's a form of email marketing. As consumers, we've taken that to be kind of just a part of the process, right? But it's technically email marketing, which is why in that thank you, there's usually something else, another product, another service, a discount or something. You don't want to miss the opportunity to thank people for spending time, money, giving you some level of commitment. Don't waste that opportunity to say thank you and to mention something else. Also, you want to remember that these people are your VIPs. Again, this is a very, very close, loving space that they've let you into. And though maybe those standards have lowered a little bit with all the emails that we get, but it's still considered kind of a VIP space to be. And you want to treat them like VIPs. Tell them the things first. Give them the updates first. Give them access to the things first. Let them know, hey, we really appreciate that you have chosen to be in this space with us. Here is something just for you because we value our relationship. We hope that you do too. All right, so that gets us kind of through the whys and the peoples. Let's talk about actually building the email. And I know that there will be many questions. I hope to be able to leave quite a bit of time for that. So we'll see how that goes. So building your emails. Subject lines. Okay. I stop and giggle a little bit because subject lines are a hot topic with emails. Some people feel like you should be super salesy and say something flashy. Just be clear. Try to entice people, but don't be the quintessential used car salesman. Make it actionable. You don't have to necessarily have a call to action, but you do want it to kind of be fluid and with movement. And what I mean by that is that maybe your email is something like, I really can't believe that it's June. It's like, okay, it's clear that we're talking about whatever happens in June. It's actionable because it's like a thought process. It's like, I cannot even believe we're here. How did we get here? That kind of begs that question. And it's enticing because it's like, what's happening in June? Okay, let me open this because clearly there's something happening in June that I don't know about. So you just want to make sure it's clear, it's actionable, and it's enticing. And then with the copy, so on the inside, you want to make sure that you're being conversational. So there is a bridge between subject lines and copy. Your subject line and your copy, the relationship between those two should kind of be continuing. So don't be afraid to start a sentence in the subject line and end it at the beginning of the email, or ask a question in the subject line and then answer it in the top of the email. So you can kind of pull those things together to make sure they make sense. That helps you keep it relevant. So if you build your copy first and then think to yourself, now what would I say to introduce this conversation or to start this conversation if there were step 0? I recommend doing that. Start with your copy and then work back to your subject line. But with your copy, write conversationally. When we do marketing things for our businesses, for our organizations, we tend to turn into a whole other person. Suddenly, when we're usually laid back and cool and we say stuff like it's lit and, all this like slang, but then we get in the email and say we are so perplexed about the current situation plaguing our country today. Okay, okay, okay. Just say it. Don't fill it in with all this craziness. That's not how your brand usually speaks. So that means you have to understand what your brand's message is, what that tone normally is, and keep that within your email copy. So be conversational. Don't be brochure like. Chunk the information. Don't get long winded and start explaining and saying and giving your audience these $5 words when they barely want your 2 cents as it is. Don't do that. And be yourself. Be willing to understand that when they came into this space, they knew who you were and how you were. Maintain that for familiarity. Then with our images and video, they just need to be eye-catching and relevant. Now, images is in all spaces. Stock images are fine. It's great if people can see actual images from you, but it's okay if you're using stock images. Video, of course, if you are saying a thing and you want to just pop it into an email, it's actually a lot easier to put a video into your email than anywhere else in life, because we know that this is likely not something people will happen upon. And you can be a little bit more relaxed with the production, so to speak, of that. You can maybe decide to say, hey, how are you doing? So glad that you joined us, or something of that nature. Put it into your email and not worry about how it looks on social media. And so video is a very strong thing to use. Make sure it stays relevant. Don't go on a tangent. Have a script. And make sure it's eye-catching. So do get dressed up, kind of like me today. I dressed the top half of my body. So then we have our calls to action. Have one or more, make it stand out. That's pretty much the gist of that. If you are not telling people what you want them to do not expect them to do anything. And that's just kind of a part of marketing life, digital marketing life. Have some call to action. Even if the purpose of your email is not this big to do, have something you want them to do. Follow us, contact us, read this blog, go look at this product. This was interesting. Go read this article. Give them something to do. We want your audience to believe and understand that you are a resource for the next step in the process, the next place that you can or you should go. And so you want to make sure you're giving them something to do and make it stand out. Don't just highlight the link. Do highlight the link. That's a good thing to do. But make sure there's a button, or if it's a highlighted link, it needs to be a different color. So make sure it doesn't get washed into the rest of the things. Maybe it's an image or a graphic. Either way, it needs to say, hey, come do something over here with me and go somewhere else. This next bullet is what I call bridges. This is not like a marketing term. This is a Jacqui term. In all marketing things, there are these invisible bridges that exist in our life. And what I mean by that is that from your email, there needs to be a bridge to your social media, a bridge to your website, a bridge to email or contacting you. It's your job to give them the start of that bridge so that they can cross it and connect with you in other ways. And this is why in most templates, you find that there is a share or follow option, or a way to put icons at the bottom for going to the website and all that kind of thing, because you need to build those bridges for people. As I always try to remind everyone, it is not your audience's job to find said bridge or swim across the creek to get to the other side to find you in these other spaces. That is your job. You should do it. Build those bridges for them, make it easy for them to go over, connect with you, learn more, spend money, or make whatever commitment you've decided that you needed to make. And then lastly, on this particular screen, we want to personalize. Say their name. Tell them, make sure they know that you know who they are. Now, don't overdo this. If you send me an email and it's like, hey, Jacqui, Jacqui, I really feel like, it's crazy out here. Right, Jacqui? I'm going to say, okay. All right, this is weird. You're being creepy, and I will unsubscribe now. So don't say it too much, but a nice little, hey, Jacqui, it's nice to see you. Or nice to talk to you again, or can you believe this? Maybe you don't start with it. Maybe in the end, it's like, this information is so important, Jacqui, to our world today. Suddenly I'm like, oh, they're talking to me. Well, I feel special. Personalizing things like that makes people feel special, and you want your VIPs to feel special. Now, We know what we're sending them. We know who they are and what they like and that they like emails. That's great. How do we get them there in the first place? Who are these people? So the basics of attracting your audience. Of course, and I say of course strongly because I know not everyone does this, you want to have a sign up form or some way for people to sign up, a button or something from your website. Do that, it's important. If they're on your website, likely that means they are at least interested and you want to give them a way to get there. And then we have driving it from social media, using email, hey, join our email list, that kind of thing. That's a form of content just like anything else. So make sure you're saying out loud, hey guys, we have an email list, please sign up for it. And then you want to do a form or some type of sign up at events. Now I know that it's 2020 and BC before Corona, we would show up in person and shake hands and high five and even hug, you know, all that stuff we used to do back in 2019. And so this may feel a little harder, but the truth of the matter is that there are digital events happening. With that said, let's get this out of the way. I would like you to join my email list, and here's how you can do so. You can point your device if you're not using your cell phone at the screen, use a QR code, or feel free to use the bit.ly link there at the bottom. I'll hold here for about 10 seconds while you do that. Smiling. All right, glad we got that out of the way. Now, further on attracting your audience, you want to be able to use, if you can, if it makes sense for your industry, lead magnets. So you may be saying, hey, sign up for my email list. I'll give you this ebook. I'll give you this checklist. There's a webinar coming. It's free. All you got to do is give me your email address. Here's a course or some other tool that makes sense for your industry. You also can have contests. Enter at your own risk with the contest. If you want to manage that, which I am not a person who likes to manage contests, it gets to be a little messy for me. If you want to do that, that's fine. Just make sure you enter at your own risk. And then you have lead pages. You want to use a lead page as just a space for people to land, have enticing copy and content and great pictures and great information that makes sense for how they've gotten there, and grab their email address, ask for that information there. It's not super difficult. These aren't like groundbreaking ways to attract your audience, but they're often very overlooked because they're not so groundbreaking. We pass up opportunities to grow our email list all the time, even in regular conversation. If people come up to you after a thing, you know, back when we used to get together in life, or anything happens and you're inboxing someone or whatever we do in digital world now, you can always say, hey, well, you know, I always send this great information through my company's email list or my organization's email list. Is it okay if I add you? And they're like, yeah, get the email, put it on there, grow your list, be great. Now, more email marketing things that you should know before I ask if you have questions. Choose your service. Now, there are many platforms. I did not even remotely get to the tip of the iceberg with these couple that I've mentioned. I personally use MailChimp. Another organization I work with uses Constant Contact. Those are the two that I am most happy with. There are some CRM type ones like HubSpot. Also, they're integrated options. If you use, for instance, Square Point of Sale, or if you use GoDaddy's GoCentral Website Builder, a lot of those things are kind of accessible in that space. Now, when you're choosing your service, you may want to decide to choose one based on how much it's going to cost you, because, you know, money is a thing and we want to make sure we're keeping up with our budgets. So how much it costs you matters, but also how easy is it for you to get people into that space? And that's why integrated options have to be considered. If you are selling retail and you get a person's email address every time they buy something and you use Square to do that, then it makes perfect sense to use Square marketing to send your emails. They're already there. You don't have to move them around, that kind of thing. Now, how great Square's templates and things of that nature are, I don't know. But that's the other thing you should consider is, can you make it look the way you want it to look? Which brings us to number 2. Every builder that offers email marketing has templates. If you are not a designer, use the templates or get a designer. It's really that simple. You want to make sure that your email, like every other digital marketing thing you do, is a continuation of your brand. You do not want to create spaces that feel disconnected from everything else. So use the templates, change the colors, drop an email and a logo in there, and it makes it way, way more simple for you to get what you're trying to get done. And then third, you want to remember to set goals, right? Now, you got to know what you want to know. And I know that that can be difficult because you're like, but I'm not a marketer, Jacqui. So how do I know what I want to know? How do I know what I don't know? Isn't that a question for everyone? But the truth of the matter is that you know why you're sending your emails. Do you want people to buy things from you? So is it a conversion thing? Do you want them to visit your website? So is it a conversion of clicks? Do you just want them to open it because you're like, hey, I'm trying to increase my brand engagement and I want people to really just open them in the first place? Know what goals you have and understand what measures you need to consider. Which brings us to the nerdy email marketing things. Uh-oh, go back. The nerdy email marketing things. I'm gonna actually skip to number 2 because it's related. You wanna use key performance indicators. And that's how you measure those goals, right? Deliverability, so how many people actually got the email you sent. Sometimes you have bad email addresses. And if you see that that happens a lot, maybe how you're getting them is not the best way. So if you're trying to figure out people's handwriting and oftentimes you send your email and you get a bunch of bounce backs, then maybe you should consider going to something more digital or something that's a little bit more concise. Your open rate, how many people are actually opening it, and then your click-through rate, how many people actually click those calls to action. Is that an indicator for the success of your emails? And then unsubscribes. So you are, after a time, are you saying that, I sent a particular email and I got a ton of unsubscribes? Clearly, we don't want to say that thing again, whatever that was. And so know what goal you have, know what indicators tell you that you're reaching or how you're progressing in that goal. Now, back up to number 1, you do want to do some A/B testing. A/B testing, again, in the nerdy email marketing things, is basically a way for you to test out what works and what doesn't. And so in a very quick and short, not very in-depth way to explain this, you choose a variable. So say your subject line or certain call to actions, even time of day that you're sending it. Create those 2 versions of your email and then send them. Only do one variable at a time. Once you know what works, boom, we got that variable working, then we can do something else. And then you just want to analyze that to make that decision. Which one of these is doing best? Maybe you do this every month, you choose a variable, or if you're sending a ton of emails, it could be every couple weeks. If you're not sending a whole lot, maybe it's once a year, whatever works for you. But A/B testing is a great way for you to understand, understand what your audience is actually reacting to, what they're enjoying. And then number 3, please comply with the laws. So we have CAN spam compliance, which a lot of the email marketing platforms are kind of taking care of that for you. And this actually has something to do with pornography. It's a long story. But the way that you are in compliance is because you're putting your address. That's why you're asked that. That's why it has to stay on there, because it says, hey, if we need to, we can come see you, right? Or we can find you, or we can trace you in some kind of way. And so that's not something you have to be conscious of, because it was introduced back in like the 90s, back when that, what was that, 98 in the first slide? That was one of the first things that was put in place. Hey, we can't just have you sending emails and not saying where you are, who you are, what if you're being weird with kids or something like that. Here's how you comply. That's why you have that little block of information at the bottom of every single email builder. Then you have GDPR compliance. That's fairly new for us. The European Union was like, look, y'all are doing too much with these emails and how you get them. Chill out or we're going to fine you. So that was a whole thing. And there is a whole level of in-depth information on how you comply. Basically, there are, for a lot of email platforms, there is an opt-in that is GDPR compliant. So there are things within your email that are kind of built in when you're using a builder that you should not have to worry about. Now, GDPR goes beyond your email. That is not why we're here today. So I would say have a talk with your lawyer, or if you're doing any other type of like your website, that kind of thing, just make sure you're complying with that. Avoid spam filters, comply with that. And here are a couple words that tend to make your emails go to spam. These words: free, cheap, no purchase necessary, lots of dollar signs, act now, guarantee, free gift. All of those things, you know, I have to say it in that voice so y'all can understand how it sounds in email world. But that's just a few of those words. There are other things that you may feel like are kind of normal for you to say, like no investment necessary. It's like, okay, you're being spammy. And so normally that will push your emails to spam. So you want to be pretty careful of that. Random tips that don't fall under any cool heading, or at least I couldn't come up with one. So have a plan for the holidays with your email marketing. In around holiday times, no matter what holiday it is, if it's a major holiday, everyone ramps up their email marketing. So you need to have a plan before holidays arrive on how you're going to use your email marketing. Do not make your audience hate you when that time comes up, because you're turning up, so is the rest of the world, and their inbox looks like trash. So have a plan for the holidays. Even if you want to be transparent, tell your audience that plan. Hey guys, Christmas is coming up and we have a lot of great things planned for you. Because of that, we're going to send you an email every single Tuesday, giving you some information on how you can play with us for the holidays. Tell them what to expect. And then when they get one every Tuesday, when you normally only send one once a month, they don't feel weird. Have a plan. Execute the plan. Also, don't take unsubscribes personally. And I know that that's hard. I take them personally, so I'm telling you to be better than me, which is often the case in my life. But don't take it personally. Sometimes people are unsubscribing just because they realize, you know what, I can just go to her Facebook page. I don't really need this. It's taking up space. It's a notification in my life. I'm trying to clear the clutter of my brain, and notifications frustrate me. So I'm going to unsubscribe. Has nothing to do with you, nothing to do with the content, nothing to do with how awesome and wonderful you are, because you are awesome and wonderful. But they don't need that in their life right now. That's okay. Also, check mobile optimization. So most builders will allow you to preview your email. Please make sure you look at the cell phone or tablet version of it. Sometimes your images are way too big. Sometimes your blocks that you've put in place line up the wrong way, or it just doesn't make sense. The words, and it just looks weird and it doesn't make sense. So make sure you look at the mobile optimization of your emails. Also, this is a really big one that I don't think enough people do or even point out. Already have an apology or an oops email drafted. We hope you never have to use it, but it's better to have it ready to go so you can send it the 2 seconds after you press send, and then open it back up because something in your gut says you messed up. And then you go back and go, I sure did tell them that the sale was on Thursday and it's on Friday. Okay, already have it drafted, ready to go, plug and play, pull it up, oops, wrong date. Have that ready to go, because that oops moment is that's the last time that your brain needs to be trying to figure out how to apologize or how to get it right. You don't want that to be the case. So have that plan, have it ready to go. Hopefully you never have to use it because you're being so thorough, but just in case. And I know you're going to ask, when should I send my emails? Tuesday through Thursday before lunch is preferable if you're in a business space. However, if you are in a retail space or your industry is different, your audience is different. And there are lots of resources. If you just simply Google time to send emails for blah, blah, blah industry, you'll get a lot more in-depth information. But if you want kind of a general rule of thumb, Mondays and Fridays, Mondays, people are trying to get into their workspaces, do what they have to do, top of the week. They don't really need any help in adding things to their plate. So your email might be a little weird for them, or they may just put it at the bottom of their priority list. Fridays, yeah, they're like, man, I stopped checking email 2 days ago. Tuesday through Thursday, and usually before lunch, so that when they start procrastinating after lunch, your email is already sitting there waiting to be opened and read and looked at. So I know you're wondering, so I'll go ahead and answer that. So before I go, just remember that consistency is key. Do not overthink your emails, and tell your story, and clearly a random bullet point that I did not delete. This is how you can get in contact with me. I will leave this up for a second as Kim makes her way back if we have time for questions. And I can't see my chat. Oh, there it is.
Yeah. Jacqui, okay, 2 points. One, it is so hard to be in a, I don't know what to call this, world where you're teaching, and I can't laugh with you. I was just laughing to myself. I'm sure everybody else felt the same way. And two, all of your images were like so good in this presentation.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yes. Before we get to Q&A, I have a question for you.
Okay.
So if people are like, man, I would love to learn a little bit more about this, or, I would love to have a little bit more help. What options do you have for people besides just emailing you? Like, is there any other
So,
options that you have for people?
so actually, usually, if you just have questions and you want some guidance, consultations are the best way to go. Consultations cost money. I should say that out loud. As much as Forge loves you and would like to give you free information, and I too love you, and I would love to give you free information as I just did. If you want to talk specifically about your life and your business and your industry, you can do a consultation. Well, so here's the thing. You don't actually have to write anything down. You can point your mobile device at that QR code down there at the left-hand side of your screen. It'll take you to a whole page that takes you from Forge, where we are now, to Bing Family. So you go there, it'll give you some links to Elevation Academy, which is our online marketing resource. We do a bunch of webinars, well, we started to before coronavirus, like Canva platform, and later if you need some information on how to use certain platforms, that kind of thing. I may do one just on email, a little course. So you'll get all that information at that bit.ly link or that QR code. And there is a link to consultations if you would like to talk about your life, your email things, and how it connects to the rest of your world. Great
Okay,
question.
good. Yeah. Okay, so this is thank you all again for being so patient during our technology little snafu that I still have no clue how it happened. But if y'all have questions, please just put them in the chat, and just for sake for everybody, let's just leave our video and our sound off, and we're going to address these just like we were in a webinar. I am recording this, and I'm not quite sure what all on my screen is getting recorded. I've tried to go through and mute people, so we'll see if that shows up. But please, if
So
y'all have any questions.
I'm gonna
Yeah, go ahead.
stop share. So this
Okay.
is last call for contact information on the screen, because I'm gonna stop the share. So there it
Get
is.
ready.
Ready. All right. And someone said, please.
Previous slide.
Okay. What do we want to
Real
see
quick.
here? This one or this one?
Yes. What that was too. Maybe the next one. What was the website to get to the Elevation Academy? The next slide.
Oh,
Go
okay.
to the next slide. There you go.
This one?
Yes.
The one with the empty bullet point, you're making me look bad. Elevation Academy is onedegreemmm.com/Elevation Academy. However, again, if you go to that bit.ly link, it has links to everything, every social media thing, every Elevation Academy, 1 Degree, all those things. All of that is there. So I'm not sure why
we'll include that link in the email as well.
Yes.
So here's a question. What type of content would you recommend we include in an email welcome sequence?
That is a great question, and I'm about to stop the share, y'all. Okay, first of all, let me just acknowledge that I really appreciate Evelyn, it looks like, said that empty bullet represents how much more I have to share. That is so accurate. I always have a lot to say. I think everyone who knows me knows that. So what type of content would I recommend for an email welcome sequence? Honestly, I would recommend a lot of transparency up front. So it's like, hey, thank you for being here. A lot of gratefulness up front. Thank you for being here. If you know why they have arrived, thank you for coming into this space with me. It was great that you attended this. I hope you got a lot from it, if you can be that specific. And then if you're going into a whole sequence, I would then follow up and go, hey, I forgot to tell you, or a little bit more about us. Or maybe there's, did you know that these other things existed? So that's when I would go a little further in that second email to say, hey, So now that you're here, we want to make you aware that we have this, this, and this. This is what we do here, educate people. So I would be very grateful in the first one, of course, having those links kind of in a soft sell. And then in the second one, if there's going to be a second one, I would be a little bit more educational, like, just in case you did not know, let us give you like a full-blown explanation of who we are and what we do. And then if you go into a third one, which honestly, I don't think you need in a welcome sequence unless you are welcoming them to a particular event, like it's a lead up to a thing as opposed to a continuation of a thing. If you go to a third one, then I would say, hey, we still want to hear from you. We would love for you to engage, and I will push engagement in that third one. How they can engage, how you can empower them to engage. This is a good place if you want them to share a thing. So let's say that you have some kind of certified, or you're officially a member, you give them some kind of graphic to share to say, oh, I'm a member now. You know, you can give them, empower them with something. So first, it would be gratefulness. Second, it would be education. And then third, y'all, I gotta write this down. This is a great answer. Like in real life, y'all wait. What I say? I said first. It's a real thing. Kim, don't laugh, okay?
I love it. This is why you're the best.
So first, we're being very grateful, and then we are educating, and then we are empowering. Y'all, listen, this will be my next webinar.
This is your next
in process.
I love it. Okay, next question. We're going to ask just a few more questions because we started late. So if you need to hop off, don't feel bad, but we also are going to be respectful of your time. So we're going to, after we get those three, I already forgot. Welcome, educate, empower. Is that right? Anyways, the next question is, what is the difference between email marketing and blogging?
So I feel like there's a deeper question behind that, because blogs happen on a particular space, like your website or medium.com. It's like an article, right? Your email is literally that. It's an email. Now, as far as, because I feel like the question is more, what's the difference between writing for your email and writing for your blog? I feel like that's what we want to get to. Correct me if I'm wrong. But in that, if that is more the question or where that's leading, then I would say there's not a huge difference. Again, remember your email space, those are your VIP people. So if there is the deepest level of what you are offering, if it matters to, if you're like a resource provider or you're there to give them tips or tricks or whatever, you give them the deepest level of information. And what I mean by that is, if I put up a blog that says, here are 10 things that you should do when you are teaching a lunch and learn at Forge, and I give them maybe 2 to 3 sentences on my blog, well, then maybe the day after or even the day before, when I send my email, I say, hey guys, tomorrow or yesterday, I posted this blog on these 10 things to do, and I gave 2 or 3 things you should do, but hey, I have 5 more things that you probably want to know. And then you go a little bit further. And this is kind of that concept of, you don't have to reinvent the wheel with your content. It's okay if they're closely related, but you want to give your email list something special for giving you that one-on-one time. They don't have to happen upon it. They ask for it. So you give it to them in more detail. I hope that answers your question.
Next question. Are there any good free email marketing tools?
Everything is free until it's not. So if most platforms, like I use MailChimp, it's free. Everything has restrictions when it's free. So MailChimp does have a free version. It's going to have some restrictions, but likely you're not ready to get into those restrictions. And I was telling someone just last night, I think I was teaching another program, and I was telling them, use those free times, even if it's a temporary free. But before you use the free version of anything, be prepared to use it. So don't opt in if it gives you a time, 30 days to try it out. Be ready. Have your list ready to upload. Have your first couple, pieces of content. Be ready to actually use it to make sure it's worth the money. But MailChimp stays free for a lot of people, just with those restrictions. And you can choose if you need to pay for those kind of add-ons. But do not opt into anything free that is like a free trial or a limited time thing unless you are prepared to actually test it out. Otherwise, you have wasted it and you'll have to make up yet another email address to get your free trial, and that just gets messy. But MailChimp is what I would recommend. It's super user friendly. They've integrated a ton of things over the last year or so. It's my favorite for people who are just getting started.
And this looks like it's going to be the last question. How do you recommend coming up with different kinds of content to push via email that the audience actually looks forward to receive and is not just another notification in their inbox?
Where is that question?
It was sent to me privately.
Oh, okay. I was like, I don't see that. All right. So the question, we'll say it one more time.
Yeah.
I was
So how do you
come
come up with different kinds of content to push in your email that your audience actually looks forward to reading? Like, how do you create an email that it's like, ooh, I do want to read their email, rather than like, oh, it's just another email from 1 degree.
Which is
probably
question. How my audience is, but I'm
so
good about my emails these days. Okay, so here's the thing with content in general, but especially with email. It's a trial and error kind of thing, and I want to say that out loud, mostly because most people feel like there is an answer, and there really is not. Your audience is unique to you, even within your industry. How you go about things, what process you do, what you look like, how you speak. Your brand, like a person, is its own thing. And so when an audience is engaging with you or they want to engage with you, you've got to find the sweet spot. So that means you may have to go back and look at what you sent if you've been sending some emails for a while. Figure out this is why A/B testing is great. Figure out what got their attention. Figure out which one they clicked in. See if you can wrap your brain around why they did that. Was it because you gave them something free? Was it because there was a discount? Ask them. That's an option. You can totally put your email and say, hey, I really want to ask you a question. That's your subject line, right? They open it up and they're like, what do you want? I already don't like your emails as it is. What can we provide to you that is of value to you? What would you like to see from us? Poll in other spaces. You can go on social media and say, hey guys, I know a lot of you on our email list. Here is a poll. Click the things you like to read about. Even try doing like a campaign. Maybe it's a short kind of campaign and you say, hey, I'm gonna send an email every single day this week. They're going to be so long or something like that. Try to play around with it. Once you've kind of figured out what it is, it'll get better. But no different than anything else in digital marketing, and this is for everyone, not just who asked that question. Everything requires you to go out there and try it. And then maybe you fail at it, maybe it sucks, maybe all of them unsubscribe, but you really don't know until you try it. And so you've got to trust that you know your brand well, you've put in the work of understanding how you bring value, know how to talk about yourself well, know how to present what you have well, put it out there, see if it sticks. If it does, great. If it doesn't, try something else. And that's okay. That's all a professional marketer is going to do for you. They can have great ideas, but until they start to see whether it makes sense or not, they're also just using trial and error. So try it out, see how it works, glean the good stuff, keep the good stuff, keep going.
It's great. Well, thank you so much. This was so good today, Jacqui. Thank you. And thank you all for joining us and hanging in there when we weren't with you.
I know, right?
But yeah, still going to try to figure out what happened there. But thank you all so much.
Is that link. I'm going to drop it in chat real fast before we go. If anyone wants to go straight to that page. Oh, that's not the right one.
That's a good one too, though.
It is, but that's not the one I want to give you. Here we go.
All right. So click it fast.
Boom. There you go.
There you go. Thank you. And listen, we do love to provide content that's timely and important to you. So if you have any topics that you would like for us to address, please let us know, because we want to hear from you what is important to you, and we will do what we can to address those topics. So Jacqui, thank you for today. This was great.
Thank you for
having me. And I cannot wait to see you in person and not on a
I'm totally going to hug you. I just need you to know that's going to be a thing. So
I love it. I love it. Just social distance before you do.
Totally.
All right, everybody have a great day. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye.